What's up, y'all? It's Scott here with Paddle Florida Keys. I just got back from a 4-day Everglades Challenge kind of preview. So we did half the course, and we went through the whole Wilderness Waterway. We started at Goodland and ended up in Flamingo. And I'm gonna go over the gear I used and the decisions I made using that gear, and hopefully this will help y'all out with some of your challenge attempts. First of all, we're gonna talk about the paddleboard that I use. It's a SIC Okeanos 14 by 28. There's been a lot of talk about big long boards versus stock boards. I wanted to do this on a stock board. I think it can be done on a stock board. I think it's just a little bit tougher maybe, but there's some advantages to a stock board. The biggest advantage is you can turn it easier. So when you get those crosswinds and everything, you're not getting pounded so hard. I'm just kind of showing you all my gear that I took. This is everything I took for a 4-day trip, and this is the same thing that I'm going to use for the Everglades Challenge. So we're just going to start out the front here, and at the front I got my red-green light for the front. This is a nav safe lighting system. I use the bag here to cover up my GoPro 360, which I got on a tripod that's reinforced with some extra string. Right behind that I got my speedometer. This thing comes in handy just from time to time. You can turn it on and see if you're in current or not. It's really hard to tell the difference between whether you're going 5 knots or 3 knots. So it makes it's a good, helpful instrument, but I don't focus on it too much. Next we got my deck bag. This is a Watershed deck bag, and you can see I got a little compass here that I got from the dive shop. I got my maps here. I've got my knee pads under there. Down below I got 3 Camelback 1.5 liter or 3 liter rather bags for my onboard water. Not necessarily have all 3 of them filled at any time, but I do bring 3. You can also see that I got my deck line in there, my dock line in there, so that whenever I park somewhere I can just pull that out and hook up. Then I got my shoes. Gotta have shoes to wear. I was wearing these UFO sandals, but sandals don't work so good if you have to jump off the board, land in sand or whatever, or in mud. So UFOs came out with a shoe. They're the most comfortable shoe in the world, and when you're standing up paddling all day long, that really comes in handy. Next we have the deck box, which is gonna be my ready to grab items like my sunscreen, my sunglasses, my wet notes, stuff that I want at hand but I'm not carrying in my life jacket. Next is the life jacket. I got the Moke life jacket. It is the best life jacket in the world. I've tried like 15 life jackets out before I finally settled on this one. I paddled this one for 4 days with not any chafe, and it feels good. It's cool. It's ventilated. I don't like using an inflatable on the Everglades Challenge or anytime I'm out paddling alone out in the wilderness, because if you fall down and hit your head, you're not going to be able to inflate that jacket. Simple as that. Got a GoPro floaty here for my GoPro, and then I got this set up here. This is the GoPro clip thing with a universal joint on top. With this I can do just about anything. I can clip it to my hat and take point of view shots. I can hold it out. I can put it in my paddle and use it as a selfie stick. I can clip it to different things and take photos. And if you watch my other videos, you'll see some of the stuff I've been doing. Coming up next, I got my fin. This is just a Futures fin. I think it's called the Runner. Yeah, the Runner. I don't want anything too deep. This is fairly shallow, but it's pretty wide for stability. Side to side sway. I didn't fall off once this trip, which is pretty impressive for me, because usually I fall over, especially if I look up at the stars. But I was able to look at the stars on this board and not fall, so that's pretty cool. I got this little Yeti sidekick here. This is gonna be my night bag, so I'm gonna have my flashlights in there. My VHF radio is gonna be in there. My other stuff, will open that up in a minute. This is my day food bag, so this is the stuff that's not in my pockets that I'm gonna want later on in the day, so I don't have to get into my big bag. I got 3 1-gallon silicone bottles for water. If I'm not in the Everglades, those are not full. I keep them in my Yeti pack here. It's the Yeti Panga 75. So I started out with a 50, and then I had to have a couple of bags. I got everything in that bag besides what was in my Watershed bag up front. So This is gonna be my main bag for the Everglades Challenge. I'm gonna try to do it all with that. And then I got my paddle, my spare paddle, which is a quick blade V-Drive 91 telescopic. And then in the back, I got my stern light. And that's how I load it all up. Now my Yeti bag, you can see here I've got these NSI attachment points at different places. I can move it forwards or backwards so that I have it in a place that is best for the weight for the day. If you're going downwind, I'd have it back in this position. And also if I have my water, all 3 water bottles full, I move it even back one more position back to here, which gets me onto these. So I have these different length, different spacings on these things so I can adjust it to where I need it to be for the day. I want to keep my weight as centered as possible, so all my heavier gear is going to go up front. My water, my food and all that stuff is here. My clothes and stuff, my lightweight stuff is going to be in the back. And we'll get into all that in just a minute. You can also see my hat. This is the Shelta hat. This is the biggest one they make. I forget the name of it. The biggest one they make was an orange color, because my new color is orange, in case you couldn't tell. And then I got my little Phoenix F18 flashlight on here. This is a really cool flashlight. This thing is super bright, and I got a little safety line. Everything I have is tied off or floating, and mostly it's tied off and floating, because if you drop something, it's gone in the Everglades. The water's dark, you can't see anything beyond like 2 feet at the most. So at night, that flashlight can shine different brightnesses. I can see my map with lower settings, and then I can see reflective things with higher settings. I also have some other flashlights and stuff that I'll be going over when I start pulling my gear apart here. I like to attach my bag with carabiners instead of the traditional bungee and then slide the bag under. When that bag is heavy, it's hard to slide it up on that deck pad. But with a bungee clip, with a carabiner clip, I can just unclip it like that right there, and that right there. Like that. It's hard to do with one hand. There we go. And one more. And then I got the little handle here. And see, then I'm off. Okay, we're going to go through this pretty quickly because the shop's getting ready to open up and it's going to get crowded in here in a little bit. We got a big tour going out this morning. I'm going to go over my gear one by one. First of all, most important piece of safety gear, life jacket and a leash. I got a leash that attaches to my waist. It's got a quick release on it, and I practice quick releasing it all the time. I got a whistle on the right. I got my knife on the left. This is a Spyderco H1 steel. It never rusts. You can leave this thing laying in salt water for, matter of fact, they put one in the Salt Lake for like 3 months and came back and it didn't have a spot of rust on it. I got it tied off here so it doesn't flap. Right inside my Moke life jacket. I can't say enough about this life jacket. This is the first life jacket that I really feel like is my last life jacket. I've had lots of life jackets over the years. I'm not somebody to shy away from buying something if I think it's going to work better and make me more comfortable out there on the trail. So that's finally the one that I've decided on. Open it up inside here, and let's see. That's kind of there. Here we go. All right. So what I got hooked inside, I got a carabiner inside. Notice how my knife that clipped off. Everything's tied off. I got my EPIRB, required by the Water Tribe, but also just a darn good thing to have. Those spot devices are nice, but when you get in some places that are really tight, there's no sky view, that spot device doesn't work with a flip. This thing is radio based and it will work. It will save your bacon if you need it. Hope you never need it. Hope I never need it. I got my little light. This is the one I use for if I'm going to be paddling with a friend or whatever and I want them to be able to see me. I can put that on and either put it behind me or in front of me based on where they are. It's also an emergency light. And then I have, at night I have my big rechargeable O-light. Not real excited about this light. I've got a couple other lights that I'm going to be doing a light test with. These tack lights are all pretty nice. I'd get a nice one, make sure it's IPX8 rated. This one's a bit flood for me. I want something that's more spot, because when I use this, I want to find that reflector that's like 2 miles away. And this one floods out a little bit too much for my preference. So I've got a different one I'm going to be taking on my next trip. And it usually resides in my little Yeti Sidekick here. I just haven't put it away from the trip. That along with my my little Phoenix. Now my Phoenix light, I got a Phoenix light that's like this. These are pretty sweet. This little thing's got 1, 2, 3, 4 levels of brightness, and that highest brightness is pretty darn bright. It also has a flash attachment, a flash capability if you want to do that and blind somebody or send them into an epileptic seizure. But anyway, Moak life jacket, carabiner goes on my belt, and my leash goes attached to my belt. It's down forward of me. I don't like a leash behind me because it just gets in the way if you're walking around the board. If you got gear, you got to always monkey with the leash, flipping it over the gear and everything. Next, we're going to go into the deck bag. Deck bag is the stuff that I want to have on hand for my day. It's also kind of handy. I've got my Spot X. Not real excited about the Spot X, although last night when we got stuck in the wind really bad and we ended up shortening our trip by a day, it was good to be able to text out. But these things just don't broadcast nearly as good as the Gen 3s. If you're going to make do with a Spot device, I would seriously wait and not buy this. Buy an InReach by Garmin. They seem to be way better at getting out. Or just go with the Spot Gen 3. If you're a water driver, you got to have the Spot, so I would say stick with the Gen 3 for a little longer. This is nice because you can send a SOS without it being an SOS. So for instance, last night we needed a little help. We needed my wife to come pick us up at a different extraction point. This was very handy for that. So it does have its pluses and minuses. Luckily we were in a place where the sky was visible, but some of those tight creeks in the Everglades, it didn't work because I can look back and see my tracking. I got it set on 10-minute tracking, and there's big gaps put in places for a couple hours even. So that's kind of dangerous. But it is what it is. Being out there is dangerous. On top, I got my map, and I had 3 maps for this trip, and I folded up based on where I'm going to go for that next couple hours. You can see I got it all marked up with different compass headings, different notes, how far it is from point to point, all that kind of stuff. I still like a map and compass. I got my compass right here. It's a you can change the angle so you know which angle you're going, and you can just line it up and go. Especially for SUP, you ain't got time to be monkeying with a GPS too much. If you stop, and especially if the wind's blowing, you're gonna get blown around a little bit. So map is still very handy to have, I think, and it also gives you something to kind of, when you're in the Everglades, there's a lot of small islands and stuff. So it's helpful to see, okay, yeah, I need to go by that little point there, or I got to go through those set of islands there. So it's nice to have that bigger, zoomed out version with the map. I got my knee pads. I used my knee pads a lot on this last trip. It was very, very windy, upwind. So I spent probably, I don't know, a lot of time on my knees. I got 59-year-old knees. My grandfather told me when I was a kid, take care of your knees, you regret it one day, and I wish I'd listened to him a little better, but it is what it is. So knee pads are a must for me. I got my OOFOS shoes. They just came out with these shoes. These are awesome shoes. They're the most comfortable shoes in the world. The only thing I don't like about them is they're for people with plantar fasciitis, and so they have a little bit too much sweep on the front and back for me. I'm actually going to add some shimmage to that so that they don't rock so much front to back, because when I get up sometimes I'm a little tippy. I didn't fall off the board, I didn't fall, but it just feels tippy sometimes, and I don't like that feeling when I'm on my board and I got all my gear and everything. You really don't want to fall off. I mean, if you do, you do. It's not a big deal, but I'd rather not fall off. Okay, so also on my deck bag, I got my mosquito repellent. That's a must-have, and this is usually where I stick my dock line as well, right under those bungee cords there. This is the Watershed deck bag. I can't say enough about this bag. This is like an awesome bag. I just, again, I use carabiners to attach it so that I'm not having to slide it under something to get it in place. And it doesn't need to be a real solid fit, but it's something pretty tight, so it's not shifting around, but things don't really shift that much anyway, so it's really not that much of an issue. You can tighten it up and loosen it up right here with this little bungee system here. I got a little extra piece of cord there because you never know when you're going to need a little piece of cord or whatever. Opening this up. Now this is the stuff I want on hand when I'm out paddling, but I don't need it in my quick box, but stuff that I'm going to maybe need during the day. That's my personal care. You know, toiletries and a little shovel. And wag bags, they don't really want you to dig holes in the Everglades, and really there's not many places you can dig a hole, so you're really better off wag bagging it, putting it in your trash, and then throwing it away when you get out of the Everglades. I know that sounds kind of icky for some people, but once you've done it a couple times, it ain't no big deal. Actually, I've only had to do it once because most of the time you got about an hour and a half between stops with toilets, so that's usually not a problem. I got my boat shirt that I bought in Canada for the when I was on the Yukon 1000. This thing is really sweet. It's a whole mosquito shirt, so you can take that thing out and get it on in a moment's notice. It's got a zippered hood, so you can open it up to eat a little bit or whatever. You can reach up under there. I can put this on top of my life jacket. So like last night we were coming into Flamingo. Excuse me. We were coming into Flamingo, and the bugs got bad. I put the boat shirt on, then I hit my legs with the spray, and I'm good to go. As far as spray, the only thing I found is the real stuff. Get something with DEET in it. You know, I don't know. It's up to you. But that's why I use the shirt, so I'm not using too much of it, but that's the only stuff I've found that really works on the Everglades mosquitoes. We got a tarp. When you go in the Everglades, you're on these chickees, and there's big gaps in the chickees. So if you're gonna get out and you're gonna start getting gear out, spread that tarp down first. That'll give you something to put it on top of. This also works as a tent footprint. We were on a ground site one night, so it's a little muddy. So I put that down. Usually I have this in a baggie. That way, whenever it gets wet, then it doesn't fog up the inside of your dry bag. So that's a problem. You'll get condensation on the inside of your dry bag. So all your dirty. So I keep this thing in a plastic bag so that the condensation won't get inside your dry bags and then create this cloud in there, and everything kind of is damp and musty. It's going to happen anyway, but at least if you put it in a plastic bag, it reduces it. Dirty clothes, trash, everything I put in baggies, seal it up. That way it kind of keeps its own cloud in there. There's an empty baggie, so that's probably the baggie I used for that. But we had a rush to get packed up the other night. Whoops! Oh, look at that. My first aid kit, which came apart in here. Let's see. So it's got a space blanket, surgical gloves, triangle bandage, antiseptic wipes, all that stuff. This is a nice little kit that a buddy of mine, Bill Bray, made for me, and he calls it the OSB, the O stuff bag. And it looks like maybe I'm due for a new Ziploc. I'm gonna have to make myself a new first aid kit up, I think. Rain jacket, also wind shell, also keep you warm. Gold Bond friction defense. This stuff is great if you're starting to get chafe. Now I haven't had to use this, but I've lent it to a lot of people. So I don't know if I'm gonna keep bringing this along because I've never used it, but Chip used it on the Yukon. I think somebody else used it on the Everglades Challenge. So it does come in handy if you do have chafe, but more important is to try to figure out a way to prevent the chafe from coming on, because that way you don't have to chafe can make your life agonizing. I got this mosquito hat. I haven't used this in a while either since I got this shirt, so I'll probably leave that out. I got in here a map of the chickees. This is the distance between each cabin in the Everglades National Park. So that just gives me a quick reference. Oh, it's 4 miles from this chickee to that chickee. Most of that I've got written on my map. I think I didn't even look at this. Well, I looked at it once because we went to a chickee that I had never been to before. So I guess I'll keep that for now. It doesn't really weigh too much or take up much room. I got my backup GPS. This is the Garmin GPS Map 78SC. It's a waterproof floating. Well, it's splash proof and floating. Of course, I got a tie-off line on it. I didn't even use it once on this trip. I prefer the Garmin Fenix 5S Plus. They got the Fenix 6 out now. Either one of those are great. They have about an 18-hour GPS time. Perfect. Great for SUPs because it's right here on your wrist. All you can do is, if it's at night, you just push the one button, it turns the light on. You can see where you are on your map. If you put a route, and you can store a route in there and follow that route. If you get off the route, it'll tell you how far off the route you are. You can zoom it in and out. You can do everything you need right here. And when you're on a paddleboard, even just stopping to pick this up like this and figure it out and everything takes time, which means you're getting blown backwards if it's windy, which, let's face it, it's always windy. Let's see what else we got down in here. Getting down to the bottom here. I got my Sole bivy sack. This is going to be my backup for my sleeping bag. So if my sleeping bag's not warm enough, I'm going to put this on and then get in my sleeping bag, and then that's going to take me down another 10-15 degrees because I like to travel with a really small sleeping bag. I got a little cloth here that's a towel for wiping stuff off, wiping my face. I like to wipe my face off a lot. You get salt water on there, and so I'll take some fresh water and rinse my face off. And I got some little cotton things. This goes in my little OSB. So I got like the, what is this? This is iodine, and then I got smelling salts, and I got a couple of cotton tabs, and I got a little dehydrated towel there, a towelette. All that stuff goes in my first aid kit, kind of rolled out of there. I also have this mapping compass. Since I got this compass here, I don't need to bring this anymore. I'm gonna do away with that. Okay, that's off of the deck bag. I'm getting this all out because I gotta hose it all down. Now bungeed on right here. I got my Yeti Sidekick. This is where I'm gonna keep my flashlights. This is my night stuff. So I got my flashlights. I got my VHF radio in case I need it. It's also a floating tied off VHF. I got a buff.
Man, you hauled ass.
That's right. I'll cut that part out. I got a buff. I got a little battery for recharging my my watch if I need to charge it on the fly. But my watch cable is in my other bag, so that wouldn't do me any good. Usually I have my watch cable in here, but I was using on the EC, you got to be able to change your watch on the fly, but charge your watch on the fly. But on the camping trip, you can charge it when you get to the campsite because it lasts. We were only paddling about 10 to 12 hours a day, so with 18-hour GPS, you're good. I also got my wilderness permit here from the Everglades from our most recent trip. You have to reserve your campsites ahead of time. Now, unfortunately, some of these we couldn't keep because it was just, the weather was really bad, so we had to adjust a little bit, but for the most part, we followed our schedule. Let's see, that's it for that. Two flashlights, we already talked about flashlights. I got a little string that holds my hat on in case it's really windy. That hat is so nice. It will hold on your head in any kind of conditions. And I mean, I've had it be super windy. I am not sponsored by Shelta. I wish I was because I love the product so much. But I'm the type person that if I like a product, I buy it for myself. I don't get sponsored by people, so I'd rather not be beholden to somebody else and have them tell me what to use. I want to use what I want to use. All right, next up. We already went over the day food bag. This is my little day food bag here. Usually what I do is put a bunch of candy bars in my pocket, or well, protein bars in my pocket, Clif bars, all different kind of bars, whatever works for you. And then I have my pants have a zippered pocket, so I can put the trash in my zippered pocket during the day. But I can't put all the stuff I'm gonna eat during the day in my pocket, so I put the rest of it in this little bag here, and then I can just, without having to dig into my main pack. Anytime you have to dig in your main pack, it just takes time. Time is paddling time that you're losing in the Everglades Challenge. So if I don't get into this all day long, that makes me really happy. Next up is my deck box, which is right at my feet. This is gonna be my really most needed stuff. Like I need it twice a day. And in that, I'm gonna have my sunscreen. I'm gonna have my pair of glasses. Now these glasses that I've gone to, these glasses are awesome. I've got a pair of clear ones and I got a pair of tinted ones. they're not really the most stylish glasses, but they have integrated floating, so they float. On my clear ones, which I wear at night, I put reflective tape on the side so that if I drop them in the water, I can find them easier with my flashlight. But they have readers in the bottom, so I don't have to change my reading glasses anymore. That really took up a lot of time, especially when you're trying to look at, when you're in the wind, you're trying to look at GPS. Having the reading lenses for if you need reading glasses is just awesome, just awesome. I got some wet notes and a Fisher Space Pen right there that I can use to take notes. I take notes about what I'm going to bring next time, what I'm going to leave behind, or if anything crazy happens, anything like that. I got a little tripod for the GoPro. I got some blister tape. I got my lighter. I got hand sanitizer. I'm really big on hand sanitizing. I like to keep my hands clean. You're paddling in some really gucky water sometimes, especially when you're in a nightmare. There's places where it never really, the tide never really clears the water out, and there's like bird crap floating on the surface. And so keeping clean is very important. I got a spare fin screw. I got my lip balm. I got my super long spoon because when you're eating bags of dehydrated food, you want to scoop down in there without getting your hands all over it, and it's easier to find. It's a titanium spoon, doesn't weigh anything. And then I got that attached to my Leatherman tool because that way if you're on one of the chickies and you drop it, it won't go down through the cracks. So that keeps it from going through the cracks, but it also keeps my knife handy as well. So Leatherman tool is what I use for a lot of stuff. Speaking of knives, anytime you get your knife out when you're camping, when you're doing this Everglades Challenge, you be sure it's for a good reason. And then when you get done with it, you put it away right away, because the last thing you need to do is cut that finger wide open, or worse. So I also have in there this emergency dehydrated towel. I've been carrying this for years, never used it, but I don't know. Buddy of mine, Bill, the same guy that made the OSB, he gave that to me, I think, and so I just kind of carry it around, and maybe one day I'm going to get in a bind and I'm going to need that. It'd make a good first aid thing. I also have this Leuco tape. This is a high-tech blister tape from Germany, and this stuff is so strong I could use it as a tourniquet. I could use it in first aid. I could take this thing here and tape it onto a big cut if somebody cut their finger with their knife, and soak up a lot of blood and put good pressure on as well. So that's it for the deck box. Also taped to the deck box is my Everglades permit and a picture of me and my honey, because sometimes you need a little inspiration out there. Now, like I was saying earlier, my paddle is my spare paddle is the same length and the same paddle as my main paddle that I use for the Everglades Challenge, but it's just a convertible version. So this is the Quick Blade V Drive, and it's a telescopic. So you put it together here, and this is really great at this length for when you're in the nightmare, because it's super short. It's like a canoe length, and you can kind of paddle, and the top of it's not hitting the trees. And then in the nightmare, you stand up and sit down quite a bit. So there's places where you can stand up. So you just slide it up here like this. It locks in place, and then you got a full sup paddle. So this is, I think, is a really crucial tool. There are times when I'm out there thinking, you know, maybe my spare paddle should be a canoe paddle, but it's actually nice to have this full sup paddle, because if you're knee paddling and you got it short like this, but then all of a sudden you need to go long, you can just bring it out there and get a couple long for doing a sweep stroke or whatever. Usually when you're knee paddling, you're in a big side chop or you're in a big headwind, so sometimes you got to really push that board around. So having the full length on hand is very handy, and then having the short length ability is also pretty freaking awesome. All right, getting there. Okay, one more thing here. We got our 3 bags. I have 3 bags, and these are what are these? Hydro Packs 1 gallon bags. I think they make a 2. When I start out, if I'm in the first up till checkpoint 2, which is when you start entering the Everglades, these are just rolled up and stashed away in my pack. I don't need these 3. I use the 3 Camelbacks, and then 3. So for my water, I got these 3 Hydro Pack 1 gallon bottles. They do make a 2 gallon bottle, but I like the 1 gallons. And like I said, before I get to the Everglades, these are just all balled up and stuffed in my pack. They don't take up much room at all. I upgraded to one of these nozzle-based lids. I bought 3 of them, but really all I need is one because I can switch it from bottle to bottle. But this is really nice because otherwise it's kind of hard to get the water out of there without spilling a lot. But with this, it's actually got a valve you twist on and off, and then you can just push it. A little bit comes out. It's perfect for refilling your Camelbacks, filling up your coffee mug or whatever, your drink, you know, or making your meals. All right, the big one, the Yeti Panga 75. This is my new favorite bag of all time. I've been through watershed bags. I had the Panga 50 last year with a watershed bag also. I can get everything in this Panga 75 that I'm gonna need for the Everglades Challenge. So it's pretty awesome. I've kind of, the straps are too bulky and you don't need them while you're paddling. But I've created this little bungee system where I've got a crisscross bungee that I just take off 2 of them like this, and it comes right out so I can get in and out of it. Easy of access is important. I also attach these 2 side to side like this. I can just use this for my handle. I can pick the whole thing up like that. I got these little reflective things on the back. That's mostly so I remember which end's the back. I also have the zipper in the back. For some reason that works better for me. If I'm turning around, I can pull the zipper that way easier to open it up. These things are airproof, so when you fill this up with air, when you fill this thing up and close it, it's airproof. So you can actually use this for a seat. It won't leak a bit. It is like bomb-proof. You can throw this around. You can poke at it with sticks. You can see all the mud from the Nightmare. It was getting poked with sticks. It was getting prodded. It was getting tossed around. This is like a bomb-proof bag. I got these reflective things on the back for safety more than anything, and to remember which end's the back. And then when I open it up, inside, top and center, I got my tent. Now the tent I use is a tarp tent. It's a pretty small tent. It's simple to set up. Not exactly perfectly happy with it. I think a freestanding tent's better. This one actually needs 2 stakes, which I can still do on the Chickies, but I think the freestanding tents with 2 poles are probably better than the single pole non-freestanding tent, just for ease of use. Got my kitchen and bath. I put my kitchen and bath together because that way it's all in one, and it's got orange bags so I can find it. I always got me a little clothesline. Got my personal care items, toothbrush, toothpaste, mouthwash. Got me a little coffee cup. I do not drink coffee on the Everglades Challenge. This was a camping trip, so I did bring some coffee on this. But on the Everglades Challenge, if I don't cook, I'll be happy, because cooking takes time and I don't have time. I gotta be paddling, so I'm gonna wake up and go grab a quick bite and I'll move on out. You are required to bring a stove though, so I do have a stove, and gas of course, and a way to light it, and that's it for kitchen and bath. I got a yoga mat, which I brought this time. Really nice for just throwing down and doing a yoga pose. But now that I have my knee pads, I think I'm going to leave this behind too. I'm not going to be bringing that anymore because it just takes up bulk. I need a little more room in here for more clothes for the Everglades Challenge than I used for this last trip. So that's going to go. I got my clothes bag. Oh, so when I'm packing this bag up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my clothes. I kind of repacked it backwards because I was just putting it together for after the trip. It was all shoved in there from the from our bailout from last night. But I'm going to put my clothes in the front so it's lighter weight, and then my food will be in the back so it's heavier. So I'm going to just turn this around because it's backwards when I just repacked it a little while ago. So I got my clothes. All I'm going to bring for clothes is an extra warmth. I'm going to bring a couple pair of underwear, a couple pair of socks. You don't need nearly as much as you think you do. Matter of fact, I did this whole 4 days in the same pair of pants. Yeah, they were filthy. Yeah, they smelled, but less to carry. I got my extra maps. We already talked about that. I use the Top Spot maps. You gotta have 5 of them for the Everglades Challenge. Any of this stuff, anybody has any questions about, you can always email me. All right, let's see what else. I got my sleeping bag. This is a nice little sleeping bag. That's why I got that bivy sack. This is only good down to about 45 degrees, but I put that with that bivy sack, I'll be good down to about 35 degrees. If it's any colder than that, I'll actually wear clothes, and I should be fine down to less than that. We don't usually encounter that low before the race for the Everglades Challenge, but I always do check the weather beforehand. One thing I will be keeping with me, this is what I call my luxury item, is this REI FlexLite chair. It's a super lightweight chair, and I can set it up. It's so nice to have a comfortable place to sit, especially when you've been standing all day. But it's also great for when you're getting dressed in the morning, so you're not having to dance around trying to get dressed, and your butt's not in the dirt or on the ground. And it's just really nice at the end of a paddling day. I'll set my kitchen up right next to me there, and I'll just have myself a little dinner, and I'll just sit in my chair, and I'll just spend 5 minutes relaxing. Definitely keeping that on the list. This is not going to be on the list. This little container here is not any good really. I use it to keep my breakfast in. I got this, my breakfast is a powder mix that I make. It's ground up granola with some protein powder and some peanut butter powder. And I just put water in there, and I mix it up right in there and make like a little paste, and then cut the corner off and eat it like it's out of a tube. It's not pretty, but it'll give you about 4 good hours of energy. But this thing here, if you mix it up and put it in there, it's just going to be something you got to clean, and then it's going to be nasty and gangy. And I don't like nasty and gangy when I'm camping as much as I can help it. Let's see what else we got here. There's my dirty clothes. So as far as clothing, you definitely want a UPF shirt. And then I like to change underwear at least every 2 days. I'm kind of spoiled that way. I know there's other people that probably don't wear underwear, or they just change them every once or twice, but I like to change my underwear every couple of days. So I'll bring a couple extra pair of underwear. Also a pair of socks. If you're when your feet have been soggy all day long, they're pruny, and you can't get in your sleeping bag very easily. So you put on a pair of socks, you can slide right in your sleeping bag. That's a little inside tip. I got this mesh bag. This is if I get a bunch of wet crap, like my tent gets wet if it rains at night, or if I have wet clothes, or I wash my shirt off or whatever. You know, before you get into the Everglades, you got places you can stop and wash off. Checkpoint 1, checkpoint 2, you can rinse off your clothes that you're wearing, put your other clothes on. You can put them in here and then put them under the bungees and let them dry out. It just keeps it from from falling in the water, especially when it's behind you and you can't look. Got my sleeping pad. I got the Climate Insulated Static V Light. This is an awesome sleeping pad. I've been through every Thermarest and every kind of sleeping pad you can imagine. This thing gets the job done. It's super light, super compact. It's more compact than this, but I just kind of hurried up and put it away yesterday afternoon because we were trying to get launched. So we had a weather window that we were trying to accommodate. Bath wipes. Again, keep yourself cleaned off. I take a hose shower at every checkpoint, but also in the Everglades I'll use these to keep myself clean, because you just get so cruddy feeling that when you clean up, you just feel so much. You feel like a new person again. I got my trash bag here. This is where I put my soggy stuff in. Right now all it's got is a wet towel, damp towel. This keeps the fog from building up, plus it keeps it from stinking up all your gear. Got my Thermacell. Thermacell is a must. When you get to that chickie at night, first thing you do is fire this thing off. It's got a little wick in there and it runs on butane. You turn this thing on, and in about 5 to 10 minutes, all the mosquitoes and no-see-ums are gone. All right. Now the last thing you want to do before you leave in the morning is turn this thing off. So I actually am going to start maybe even putting this in my front bag, because what happens is you put it away, and then before you get launched, they're attacking you already. So I'm going to leave this thing to the very last, and I'm going to start putting it in my deck bag, I think, just because that way I can have it last minute. Let's see, what else we got in here? Spare fin. I had a rough time one year when I lost my fin, so I'll never go without a spare fin again. Let's see, that's the Thermacell. This is a couple of bags of breakfast mix, or it was. It's pretty much empty now. And then Tailwind. Tailwind's a great product. Again, I don't get sponsored by Tailwind, but I believe in the product, so I use it. I've got caffeinated and non-caffeinated. About 1 scoop for every 1.5 liters. I think they recommend 1 scoop for every liter, but I make it a little bit thinner because I drink a lot of it. And when you're starting to feel a little sluggish, you just take a couple sips of that stuff, and it feels like you're on fire again, and you get moving right away. It's amazing stuff. It'll keep you going all day long. It makes your water go further, I think. This is what's left in my dinner bag. So I have a couple of. This was a camping trip, so I brought some hot chocolate, and so I love these spicy Thai chili tuna packets. They also make a lemon, I think, tuna packet, but the tuna packets to me taste really good, and they don't weigh much. They don't take up much room. I also had some pepperonis. I had some a couple other little things. Food's something you got to kind of figure out for yourself. I got my wallet and my electronics bag. So this is I got a bunch of spare flashlight batteries, spare GoPro batteries. So I got this big 20,000 milliamp hour battery pack. This charged everything I needed for the trip. My watch I recharge every night, and my spot device I had to recharge. I used to have to recharge my speedometer, but I don't use it enough anymore that I have to recharge that. But also, you could recharge your phone once or twice. So that's all I really need as far as battery packs go. We got some more food. This is leftover food. I'm still bringing too much food. That's almost enough. That's probably enough for 2 days worth right there. So I guess if we'd have got, actually I got a bar right here too. So actually, I guess if we'd have got stuck, we would have been happy because we would have had plenty of food. But there was more food than we needed. I'm gonna have to try to work on getting that food down a little bit. And then last but not least, my OSB. This is my personal one for repairs and everything, or for whenever all else fails. I got my flare. I got some zip ties. I got duct tape, that kind of stuff. Board repair kit, epoxy stick, stuff like that. I got matches, waterproof matches. That's my real survival gear right there if I really get into desperate times. I guess that's it. What else we got? Oh, I got my gator patch. This is a UV curing fiberglass patch. If I get like a big old honking hole in my paddleboard, I can cover it with that. It's still flexible, so it's still okay. It's been in my bag for a long time. Haven't had to use it, but that thing will. You can put that on, and it'll cure in about 10 minutes. So that's a great thing to have. Well, that's it. So if you have any questions, just email me or leave a comment. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it wasn't too long, but there's just so much stuff that goes into this that that's what it is. So give us a like, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, paddle yourself to a better place today.